Hiya, and welcome back to No More Future. The game that teaches us that the best way to reconnect with your old friends is to show up unannounced at their place of work. Let me just go ahead and prepare the uwu counter. Oh, I forgot to say it last time, but last time there were 2 total uwus. You can't, like, see me right now, but I'm, like, wrapped up in a blanket because I'm, like, cold as fuck right now. Anyways, let's just hop right in. Yeah. Something like that. Cops in this country are useless at best, and they're rarely at their best. God knows where the fuck they all decide to go when you actually need them. She definitely doesn't seem to be a stranger to close encounters with law officials. In fact, it sounds as though she's even more familiar with them than you are. You'd ask for clarifications, but given how evasive her answers were to similar questions the other night... pretty good. You have a feeling it wouldn't go over well. Honestly, I still don't know what they were trying to do, cornering me like that. I still can't make any sense of it. What could have driven them to be so aggressive towards me? Was it fear? Hatred? Paranoia? Beats me. You said earlier that you can't be arrested or prosecuted by conventional means, right? You silently nod to the human's assertion. Maybe they were clueless about it? It's possible that they simply didn't get the memo. Unlikely. Policemen are hardly the type of people to skip out on homework, especially when it comes to knowing who they can and cannot arrest. Even if that knowledge had just been released to the public, they definitely would have been the first ones to know. And besides, there's something wrong about the way you said they acted. What do you mean? The girl seems hesitant to answer. I don't know. I just feel like their behavior, or at least the way you recounted it to me, was pretty strange, even by their standards. They knew that they couldn't arrest you, and yet they still pretended as though they could. That they did. If they were truly aware that they had no power over you beforehand, then their actions make even less sense than you originally thought. The only explanation you can come up with was that they misunderstood the law, or maybe they were overconfident in their authority somehow. Well, I guess even policemen aren't immune from making mistakes. They aren't immune from making intentional mistakes either. What do you mean? First, they tried to arrest you. Then when that didn't work, they tried to deactivate you the only way they knew how. It's like they were desperate to... The girl makes as if to say something. Hiya! But then stops herself at the last moment with a defeated sigh. Nah, we still don't know enough to say for certain. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to start ranting like a conspiracy theorist back there. Don't worry about that. I don't mind you getting interested in my problems. In fact, I'm happy that you care. And I do agree that there was something fishy going on with those two. Even that FBI agent that visited me the other day said as much. Maybe I'll find out what it really was once they're done auditing them or whatever. FBI agent? Oh, right. You never told Daphne about what happened before that EMP hit the building either. Maybe that's a story for another day. Alright, if you say so. Besides, we're almost at the train station anyway. We should focus on getting aboard the closest ride to New Relay before we get lost in our conversation again. Couldn't have said it better myself. Come on, let's go. What? Good. Good. And so the two of you resume your walk towards the station, the human's strange theories still whirling in your head. Okay, I don't know, but this just scares me. I don't know why. I'm just gonna, like, cuddle up into the blanket that I'm currently wrapped up in. Conspiracy or not, the more you think about what happened at the new relay station the other day, the stranger that string of events becomes. As you approach your destination, you wonder whether you'll ever get a straight answer to your questions one day. You give a brief look to your surroundings as you cross the entrance to the Bloomberg train station once again. Wait, is Daphne going to bitch slap the police? Not much has changed since the last time you visited, aside from the time shown on the large clock in the middle of the building. Which, once again, is completely and utterly wrong. To be fair, it's only been a few days since you last visited this place, so the only real difference lies in the way the light brightens it up at different times of the day. The station's still bustling with commuters of all kinds, likely heading out on a leisure trip to other, more interesting cities. Many of them notice your arrival, but only a few spend more than a few seconds staring at you two before returning to whatever they were doing before. The rest are likely going to be staring for a while. Okay. You and Daphne try your best to ignore said onlookers as you approach the old digital board that shows the train's timetables. God damn it! Just my luck. Your friend appears quite annoyed as she shakes her head at the board before you. What's going on? Just look at our train details. They're the third from the top. You give the board a quick glance per the human's request, and soon spot the details of your arranged trip right where she said you would, as well as a few extra words in red you weren't quite expecting to see. Detoured? Are you kidding me? Yep. Probably some issue with the mag field along the rails or something. Happens every once in a while. That, or something more serious. You shiver as you briefly consider a wide variety of equally unsettling scenarios, though your friend doesn't appear fazed in the slightest. Either way, nothing we can do about it. We'll waste another 15 minutes thanks to that detour, but that shouldn't be an issue for either of us. Now let's head to the platform. Our train's going to be here in 2 minutes or less. Right, lead the way. As the two of you start walking away, you notice an ever bigger crowd of people staring at you two from afar, shooting videos and taking photos while murmuring among each other. Compared to the last few times you've been surrounded by groups of people like that, their stares feel even heavier than usual, though it's possible that you're merely imagining it. You try not to let that bother you as you hear the sound of your ride coming into the station at last. The two of you enter the first carriage you find, not really giving much thought to its placement or current capacity. Though you had hoped people would have learned not to fear you by now, it doesn't take long for the rest of the commuters to spot you among them and begin to panic. Oh yes, I love network issues. Most of them flee to other cabins, the rest the train altogether. By the time the doors close behind you, there's no one left aside from you and your friend. Wow, that's some reception. Gotta hand it to you, Isaac. Not even I was ever welcomed somewhere this poorly. Though you feel a mixture of embarrassment and regret at your friend's words, a wave of shame washing over you as you realize how deeply you dragged your friend down with you, your friend merely shrugs everything off with a smile. Oh well, I guess this means we don't have to work for our seats. Without saying another word, the human sits down on the nearest chair and splays her arms out on the headrests behind her as the train begins to ramp up in speed. She seems to be taking this mortifying turn of events well, all things considered. You, on the other hand, find this to be anything but an ideal arrangement. You approach your friend cautiously, holding your head low as though you personally offended her. Once you're done sitting down next to her, you let your voice be heard once again. I'm sorry. What for? You know, for... You gesture to all the empty seats around you. Everything. You briefly quiet down, expecting Daphne to say something about this whole mess. But she simply keeps watching you, waiting to hear what you say next. Over the past few days, I hung out with a lot of people. You and your brother, my friends at Pandora, my cousin, Nem. I guess I got a bit overconfident during all that. I thought it was fine to hang out around others, so long as they didn't see me as a threat or some kind of freak. I never thought about what would happen if I ended up hanging out with those same people around others who didn't share their feelings. You scratch your head as you ponder how best to formulate your apology, while your friend keeps staring at you as though you're speaking in a dead tongue. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm sorry for dragging you into this mess. For forcing you to share all this nonsense with me, all because we're friends. Wow, you're apologizing for that? Now it's your turn to be stunned while Daphne mouths a reply. If you apologize every time someone else is acting like an idiot, You're going to be saying sorry until the end of time. Besides, if you think you're guilty for causing all this nonsense, you should hold me accountable for that too. I don't think I get what you're talking about. What are you guilty of exactly? Of attracting people's negative attention, of course. What else do you think? Upon noticing your still confused expression on your visor, the human sighs as she tries to explain herself. Alright, maybe I never got this kind of reaction before when I boarded the train, but trust me, you're not the only person who gets stared at and gossiped about everywhere they go. I mean, did you really think all those people we met along the way were staring at us just because of you? You did notice a lot more nuisances around than usual. That's true, but was that really her fault? That you can't bring yourself to believe. The human, on the other hand, shrugs it all off as though it were nothing more than a regular occurrence. I guess that's why I'm not all that bothered about everything that happened today. It really wasn't that big of a deal. But why? Why would anyone treat you like that? Daphne raises an eyebrow at your query, seemingly questioning your intelligence all of a sudden. Are you really asking me that, Isaac? You, of all people, should know the answer. It's the same reason everyone got shit on since the dawn of mankind. It's because I'm different. Because my species' name starts with an H instead of a U. It doesn't matter how I see myself. All that matters is what they see me as. And all they see when they look at me is a weirdo. A freak. Just like you. You suppose you can see why she'd think that. Her appearance is definitely striking, if nothing else, and her status as a rare species might have burdened her more than she initially let on. Jesus Christ. Seems like your predicament and your friends are quite similar in the end, though not entirely. I don't think it's quite the same thing. People aren't afraid of me because I look weird, only because they think I could turn out like Kronos. Please, like you could ever pull off something like that. The girl dismisses your consideration so nonchalantly. You're almost offended. What makes you so sure I couldn't do something like that? Because if you could really do something to scare those idiots out of their mind, I'd bet every cent I own that you would have done it already. On one hand, you'd like to think you're not quite as vengeful as your friend purports you to be. On the other, she makes a damn good point. Look, what I mean to say is, I'm sorry too, alright? I didn't mean to turn this into a rant. I wanted to make a point that you aren't to blame for what's happening to you now, but I guess I ended up painting myself as the victim anyway. It's alright, I get it now, even if it took me a while. Truth be told, you had some suspicions that Daphne was the subject of people's interest even before you saw her at the cafe yesterday. But you paid it no mind, thinking the attention she received was positive. Evidently gauging from her words and the expression on her face, it is not. You really did take a while, huh? I thought you'd put two and two together way sooner. You can't help but look away in shame as your friend rightfully calls you out. Yeah, I can see what you mean. I'm not an idiot, but I wouldn't call myself smart either. It takes a while for me to figure things out. Hell, I spent an eternity trying to realize what bothered you about those guys yesterday, back at the cafe. And I'd be lying if I said that was the only time I was slow on the uptake. Huh. And here I thought you were just too nice to figure that out or something. You can say naive, it's fine. Or maybe optimistic, if you want to be even more generous. Obviously, that optimism got a little harder to keep up after I got diagnosed with cancer and everything. Even so, you still try to stay positive as much as you can, even with half the world against you. Even now that so few friends and family are still by your side. You have to stay positive. As much as it pains you to do so, assume that everything is better than it seems, that things will get better eventually. The alternative is an emptiness and a dread that you know all too well. I see. And you're fine living like that? As though she could read your thoughts, Daphne's query drags you back from the clouds, kicking and screaming. I'm sorry? The girl crosses her arms as she turns to stare at the floor. Look, I've tried being naive before, enjoying life as it came and went, like you do. Like Apollo does. I can't do it. Not anymore. All I ever got from that was pain and disappointment. Now I'd rather just assume the worst all the time. That way I always get the jump on my problems and not the other way around. You understand where your friend is coming from. It sounds like a reasonable, if perhaps a little extreme, way to live your life. But you're not sure if you could handle the pain that would likely come alongside it. Dear Lord, where the hell did this conversation end up? Noticing how dark your thoughts have become all of a sudden, you try to lift both your and your friend's spirits with a joke. Sounds pretty edgy, not gonna lie. Though it takes her a while to react, in the end your friend cannot help but smile at your remark. Blame video games for it. I stole half my one-liners from fighting game banter. Oh yeah? That stuff can get pretty cheesy. I would know. I still remember all of your characters' victory quotes from when you pummeled me at Reaper's Scythe the other day. Heh. Still looking forward to getting your ass handed to you again on that one? As if! You won't be so lucky next time. I don't think I'm the one who needs luck between the two of us. Now it's your turn to smile at Daphne's cocky remarks, in spite of how absolutely wrong she is in her overconfidence. It's nice to hang out with you like this. Daphne's eyes suddenly widen as she processes her friendly remark. It is? Yeah, it is. Our first meeting might not have been all that great, but overall, I'm happy to have met you. Though I've lost many people dear to my heart, it's good to know that I can still rely on friends like you to keep my spirits up. I know it sounds corny, but trust me, I'm being serious here. You expected Daphne to tease you for your careless comments, but instead she just turns to face the other way, a regretful and melancholic gaze on her face. Not the way you thought she was going to react, truth be told. I'm sorry about yesterday. About yesterday? It takes a while for you to realize what the human's talking about, but eventually you manage to recall everything that happened during your brief stay at the cafe. Daphne wasn't in the best of moods when she first approached you and Nem at your table, which at the time felt somewhat unnerving. But could this be what she's referring to? As though she could read your mind, the girl resumes talking as soon as you realize it. Yeah, I was snappy, and a bit of an asshole. You don't need to pretend like you didn't notice it. I can tell that you did. She's right about that. Though she didn't have to state it so bluntly. You only just remembered after all. Still, given that she's voluntarily opened the door for you, you figure you might as well inquire more as to her reasons for behaving the way she did. So then, why did you react so poorly to me being there? Did I say something that upset you without realizing it? The human angrily shakes her head at your queries, seemingly upset with herself for whatever reason. Because I thought you'd come for the same reason everyone else did. We just met the previous day after all, and I still didn't know everything about you. Hell, I still don't even now. And like I said, when I don't know all the facts, I tend to assume the worst. So that's it. You suppose that explains it, all things considered, even though it's not a particularly nice thing to hear. So you thought I'd come to the cafe just to laugh at you? That's what most people come there for. You wouldn't have been the first to stalk me all the way to my workplace or house just for the sake of cringing at me. I thought I made it clear when we first met that I wasn't that kind of person. Though she seems somewhat regretful over her mistake assumption, Daphne reacts to your comment as bluntly as ever. Well, you wouldn't be the first person to say something to me, then to another when I least expect it. A brief silence follows as neither of you know how to break it. Knowing that Daphne still had regrets about you even as far as yesterday is more than a little disappointing, truth be told. She said she had to believe that in order to feel safer. But is it truly righteous to hold prejudices on one another so as to be ready for anything? In hindsight, you can't really say you can blame her either. You were also wrong about your friend in quite a few regards, and your friendship almost suffered as a result. Maybe we should just stop assuming things about each other. Daphne turns to look at you once again, her expression full of surprise. She clearly didn't expect you to say something like that after everything you shared with one another. For that matter, neither did you. She makes as if to say something, but stops herself partway through, preferring instead to simply smile and chortle away. You know what? You're right. You've been pretty cool so far, and I might as well keep believing you'll stay like that for a while at least. Besides, I always wanted a friend your size to carry my groceries for me when I go out shopping. Though her sudden joke takes you by surprise, it doesn't take you long to reply in kind. I'm not doing that for you, Daphne. Sure you will. Once I'm done thrashing you next time we play. I'll have you know, I never lost a bet with Apollo before, and I plan to keep my record going with you too. A video game bet? Sounds rather fun, honestly. You never had the opportunity to do one of those with Nem before, and you'd be lying if you said the thought wasn't at least somewhat exciting. Well, what do I get if I win? Not sure actually. What did you have in mind? You briefly scour your head for some sort of prize you could have the human wager in exchange for your dignity. But you can't think of anything that would do the trick. It's tough to say. There's not really a whole lot I need anymore now that I'm a synthetic. After some time spent thinking, however, you do recall something you could ask of the lady before you. You did make a promise to Nem about it yesterday, and you might as well try and fulfill it now that you have the chance. There is one question I wanted to ask, though. Just one question? That's it? It's not like private stuff, right? No, of course not. The girl thinks about your request for a moment, then merely crosses her arms as she calmly replies. Well, I guess you can get that out of the way now then. Really? You sure? Yeah, a question isn't worth betting on, unless it's embarrassing or something. You can't help but smile at the woman's kindness, knowing that you won't have to wait for another day to ask this. Well, alright then. Thanks for that. So, I assume you already know my friend Nem somewhat. Yeah? I was just wondering what you thought about him. The girl raises an eyebrow at your query, unsure of where you're going with this. He's my coworker, well-intentioned, oftentimes lazy, yet somehow strangely reliable. Decent guy, all things considered. Are you trying to hook me up with him or something? No. Don't get the wrong idea. Look, I think he's trying really hard to be your friend, and is a little disappointed that it's not working. Ah, I see. Looking slightly annoyed by your comments, Daphne turns to face the other way as she starts tapping the ground with her boot. I don't like having too many friends. I'm already struggling with just one. More friends means more commitments, more people to worry about, and of course, bigger chances of fucking up by getting close to the wrong person. I prefer to keep my social circle small. A lot easier to manage everything that way. Sounds a little depressing. More than just a little, actually. However, given what the humans already shared with you about her history and personal beliefs, you can't say you didn't see it coming either. Huh. I guess I had the wrong idea after all. Thought you'd enjoy having more friends after what you told me earlier. It's just that, after discussing the similarities between our predicaments for so long, well, I just thought you'd be glad to have more people around you that you can trust. The girl clenches her fist upon hearing you say that, seemingly conflicted. Look, it's not like I hate him or anything. But what if he turns out to be like everyone else? Or worse, what if I start thinking he will? Like I thought you would yesterday. In spite of her attempts to look calm and composed, your friend can't hide the worry in her voice. Again, you can see where the girl's coming from. You know how it feels to be abandoned by those you once held dear. And judging from the look on her face, so does she. You can't say you find her beliefs entirely unreasonable, especially when you were this close to sharing them yesterday. Maybe that's why you can't help but share your thoughts with the human once again. I can't ease your worries, Daphne. If you say you have good reason to assume stuff like that of other people, I'm willing to believe you. All I want to do is offer some suggestions. It's up to you whether you take them or not. Nem's my friend. I've known him since we were kids, so I know he's a good person at heart. If you want, he could be your friend too. The train is silent for a while, ignoring the sound of the wind slamming against the windows in the background. Daphne rubs the back of her head as she wonders how she should respond to your pleas, looking conflicted once more. It is with a heavy sigh that she finally addresses you once again, after what felt like an eternity spent lost in space. Alright, I'll consider giving him a shot one of these days. Ooh-woo number 1! Though you spend a few seconds looking thoroughly surprised, the shock is soon replaced by joy and enthusiasm. Thanks, Daphne. Don't thank me yet. If he winds up disappointing me, I'll be disappointed in you too, you know. I'm sure that won't happen. I have faith in my friends. The girl laughs off your corny remark, feeling a lot better than before. Alright, enough with the cheesy lines. We're in a train, not a dairy what the fuck? Did we fuck around and find out? A pitch black darkness envelops the train before Daphne can finish her joke, surprising you both. Or at least you. A tunnel? Yeah. The fastest detour to New Relay goes through Mount Fahrenheit. You didn't know? I didn't. No, it's my first time not using the fastest route to get to Pandora. Aw, little baby needs a nightlight. I never said anything of the sort. More chuckling from the human. As much as it annoys you to hear it, you really ought to stop looking so surprised by every little change you didn't see coming. Well, cheer up. Should only take a few minutes before we're back in the sunlight again. Until then, we can just... What the fuck? Well, well, well. Would you look at that? I've been looking all over for... Who the hell is this guy? I've been looking all over for you, pretty girl. Look, Daphne, maybe we should... The hell do you want, asshole? Daphne? I'm glad you asked. What the fuck is going on? I think you'll be coming with me now, pretty girl. Unless you want me to paint your friend back there with her brains. Wouldn't want to do anything stupid now, would we? As a matter of fact, I would. Huh? You think a gun is enough to scare me? You're in the middle of a fucking train, idiot. I dare you to do it. Unless you're nothing more than a coward. You... Don't fucking push me, you brat. I'll fucking kill you if you... Why shouldn't I? You've nothing to threaten me with. Possession of a firearm is 20 years in prison. Shooting one is enough for a permanent stay. So what? You think I'm scared of you? If you don't hand over what you owe us, I will kill you. If you think I can do that from here, you're an even bigger idiot than I thought. Maybe your superiors would have told you. Had they known you were about to try something so stupid all by yourself. All right, asshole, you're asking for it. If you're not going to cooperate, maybe your friend over there will. Wrong move. Ugh. You fucker. You'll pay for that, you... Daphne is the shadow demon from the living room? What? What the hell? You... The train leaves the tunnel mere seconds after the final blow is struck. Daphne towers over the unconscious body of her would-be assailant, whose utterly terrorized expression is still visible even while knocked out. As for you, you're right where you were when this whole mess started, staring at your friend from a respectable distance away, a mixture of awe and shock on your face. What just happened? I dealt with him, plain and simple. The human's voice sounds utterly emotionless and even robotic as she calmly replies to your rhetorical query. I can see that! You knocked that guy out faster than I could see it! Instead of replying, Daphne merely turns to face the unconscious thug on the floor with strange, dead serious eyes. It's almost creepy in a way, seeing her like that. Where did you learn to fight like that? Video games. Right. You sure that's it? You have a hard time imagining that to be the whole story. You've been playing alongside Nem ever since you were kids, and neither of you would be able to hold their own in a fight like Daphne did. Her movements were fast, precise, calculated in advance, and when she stomped on his head with her boot, near the end of the fight, it probably hurt like a truck. She's just the furry... She's just the no more future version of Azula. She's definitely no stranger to combat, that's for sure. Did someone teach you how to fight like that? No. That's incredible. You're really self-taught? More or less. Her answers are suddenly much briefer than usual, but they also seem more honest. At least for the most part. I assume this wasn't the first time you've been in a fight? It isn't. Though you're relieved in a way that your friend not hiding away from your queries for once. You'd be lying if you didn't find this whole thing tremendously disturbing. The total lack of emotion on her face and in her voice as she replies is concerning to say the least. And her gaze is still transfixed onto the guy on the floor. You quietly approach your friend, making sure that she can see you all the way through as to not scare her. Daphne, are you alright? As soon as you lay your hand on her shoulder, her entire predisposition seems to change all at once. Her body quickly begins to relax as she suddenly turns to face you, looking a little confused as she does. Of course I am. Why do you ask? It's a little difficult to answer, truth be told. Oh, come on. Don't tell me you got scared just from seeing me whoop this guy's ass like that. I wasn't scared. Mostly. I was more so concerned. You looked like you'd seen a ghost just now, and you weren't answering me like you usually do. I see. The human grows silent for a while, seemingly pondering over your words with an unsettled look on her face. Well, I'm really sorry for worrying you then. It wasn't my intention. I guess you could say my mind was still in the fight. I couldn't stop thinking about it. You were thinking about the fight you just had? You suppose that's not too strange, all things considered. It must have been the adrenaline or something like that keeping her alert. I still can't believe that just happened. Everything was happening so fast, I couldn't get a grip. I should have tried to help you out somehow. It's a miracle you didn't end up dying because of me. You already helped out enough by not doing anything. I did? Yeah. That guy wasn't after my life. He was after my money. And nobody will risk living an entire lifetime behind bars for the sake of money they can't even have. Now, what in the world could she mean by that? The only way something bad could have happened would have been for him to press the trigger accidentally through shock or surprise. You also provided the perfect target for him to shift his attention to once he realized he had no leverage. Were you not a steel-clad android, I might have hesitated before trying to disarm him. I see. Daphne's mind is sharper and more ruthless than you could have ever guessed. You've never met anyone who could think this coldly about a situation as tense as this, much less face the end of a gun as bravely and emotionlessly as she did. Makes you wonder whether you really are the machine between you two. Anyway, I guess this proves it. Huh? What are you talking about? What I said the other day, about how this is my problem to handle. As you can see, I can handle myself just fine without your help. You don't need to worry about me or anyone else. You take that as confirmation that this thug was indeed connected to those three who fought off the other day. You were planning on asking about that, but it looks like that won't be necessary. Needless to say, knowing that makes it a little bit harder to have confidence in your friend's bravado. I don't think that's the moral you're supposed to learn from all this mess. Are you sure you're going to be fine keeping all that stuff bottled up inside you, even when there are literal assassins coming after you? Not to mention how illegal it is for you to be fighting back on your own to begin with. It's not illegal if you don't get caught. You figuratively raise an eyebrow at the human, whose serious look, even in the midst of a jest, makes it clear that your concerns don't matter in the slightest. In spite of that, you try your best to insist. I know that you're joking, but look, I appreciate that you want to help out and everything, but this is not your battle to fight. It's mine. I told you I'd take care of everything the last time we talked about this, and I don't easily go back on my words. Maybe you should. You hear someone's voice speaking from within the carriage, much to the shock of both you and your friend. At first you think it's the would-be thieves, but a quick stomp on Daphne's behalf reveals that he remains unconscious for now. Given that there's no one left around you that could be responsible for that, you let your gaze wander over to the other side of the carriage, and what you find leaves you thoroughly speechless. You'd almost forgotten about that thing by now. It's It's only been 2 days since your first encounter, yet so much has happened in this brief span of time. And now here it lies again, a humanoid being of pure darkness staring at you from 10 feet away with eyes tinged blood red. It's been a while. Its voice is the same as you recall, vaguely human with a timbre somewhere between a whisper and a nightmare. You have to take a step back from the creature, overtaken with surprise and fear as you are. While Daphne takes one forward, a strangely defiant look on her face. What do you want now? You have to do a double take as you try to process what she just said. You know that thing? The girl immediately turns to face you, her newfound surprise mixing with her anger. Shouldn't I be asking that? Hey, I asked first! The entity shoots a disappointed gaze in your direction. Good grief, children! Before either you or Daphne could mutter a reply of any kind, the creature speaks again. Me and the android met briefly the other day at your apartment, while you were crying in your bedroom. The human is at first taken aback by the entity's words, then loudly scoffs as he tries to deny everything. No, I wasn't! I assume he never said anything about it out of fear of sounding like a lunatic if he did. Wait, how do you... As for me and her, we go way back. You have to take a moment to process everything you just heard. So strange and complex it is. If this thing truly knows what Daphne was doing while you were alone in the living room, which definitely seems to be the case, then it's reasonable to assume it had been watching over her even before you encountered it yourself. And seeing as though it knows that you never spoke a word of that encounter to anyone since, it's also reasonable to assume it has been watching over you as well. But why? And how? Before you can ask, the creature begins to speak once again. That's thrice now. Thrice that I've seen the two of you together. What's that supposed to mean? The entity pauses for a moment as it seemingly muses over this curious detail it noticed. It's unusual is all. Most people don't even try to approach her or her brother once, and yet, you seem oddly at ease alongside them. If that is meant to be interpreted as anything other than an insult, you honestly cannot bother to care right now. I don't like the way you're talking about my friends. Noticing her anger, the creature takes another moment to ponder before replying once again, its tone unflinching even in the face of your fiery temper. I apologize. I didn't mean to imply anything. All I meant to say is that it's one hell of a coincidence. And it likely won't be the last. Before you can ask for further elucidations, the creature turns around and begins to walk away, its steps echoing gravely in the air in a way that feels inconsistent with your surroundings. Though you're too stunned to react to the being's attempted escape, Daphne appears far quicker on her toes. Hey, wait up! You try to stop her, but by then, you notice what she's doing. She's already covered half the distance between you and the creature in a few big leaps. You don't get to run away this easy again! Daphne lunges after the creature, aiming for its head with a fast and precise strike, only for the creature to nonchalantly turn around and block her fist with its clawed hand as though it were child's play. What the... It shows when you don't mean it. With its free hand, the entity shoves Daphne back towards you, taking advantage of her moment of shock. The careless girl is sent flying through the air, only to gracelessly land a few seconds later on the cold, hard ground beneath her. Though she tries to get back up and continue the fight, a mere glare from the creature is enough to convince her to stay put. You can't rely on old crutches forever. If you want to be ready for what's coming, you'll need something stronger. What the hell just happened? Having seemingly said all it needed to, the entity turns around and vanishes on the spot, leaving nothing in its wake but some ephemeral clouds of smoke. You stand there dumbfounded, unsure of what just happened. You could spend an eternity debating over the events you just bore witness to, examining every detail in search of a coherent answer you're not sure you could even find. But before you can do any of that, you make sure to rush over to your friend's side and offer her a hand as she struggles to stand up. Are you alright? Daphne begrudgingly accepts your help, though it clearly doesn't please her to do so. Yeah, I'm fine. Great, I'm glad you're okay. No response. The girl keeps staring at the spot where the being previously disappeared, seemingly stuck in the same loop she was in after beating that thug. So, do you want to talk? No! Just like that, Daphne begins walking in the direction the shade disappeared in, seemingly intent on leaving you behind. Needless to say, that's a rather distressing sight. Wait, where are you going? Anywhere that's not here. Hold on, what the hell am I supposed to do with that guy? You motion to the still unconscious thug that lays on the floor behind you, but the human doesn't even deign him a glance as she moves on unperturbed. Throw him out of the window or something. I don't care. I need a break. And with that, she opens the door to the next carriage and closes it behind her, effectively abandoning you to clean up the mess she made. You glance at the large rat snoozing on the floor, then at the door that Daphne left through. After that, you merely sigh as you sit down in a nearby chair, feeling completely overwhelmed. Dear Lord, what in the world's even going on anymore? Not long after you finally reach your destination, a myriad of thoughts still whirling in your head. As you leave the train amidst the hushed whispers and curious gazes of the locals, you try to look for your friend among them. In vain. She evidently had no interest in sticking by your side any longer. Whatever happened with that shadowy creature back on the train truly shook her to her core. And the same can be said for you too, of course. You were hoping that the human could share some insights with you after calming down, but it looks like she'll need more time for that to happen. In the meantime, you did a good enough job stuffing that idiot in the baggage compartment under your seat. With some luck, no one will be able to find him until he wakes up. Ooh, some tea, some gossip. Come on, Daphne, spill the tea. And hopefully, when that time comes, he'll be smart enough to keep quiet about what happened to any would-be witnesses. It's not a great thought to leave the station on, but after everything that went down, it's the best you can muster. You walk through some familiar neighborhoods in your journey to Pandora's headquarters. The streets seem a little more packed than they were the last time you visited, though you can scarcely notice it, lost in your own thoughts as you are. I need air. Between that thug pointing a gun at your friend, the quick but nevertheless dreadful fight that ensued, and the new encounter with that mysterious entity, you just can't seem to catch a break these days. Even though most of this stuff happened to Daphne, and not to you. Daphne said you shouldn't concern yourself with her matters, but you can't help but feel worried nonetheless. There's definitely something wrong with your friend's family. You've gathered that much. But is it truly your place to worry about it? What if Daphne's right, and you're doing her a disservice by letting your emotions get in the way? You don't want to ruin your friendship with her and Apollo by getting involved in things you shouldn't. But at the same time... God, I need to take a break. The more I think about this stuff, the closer my head gets to imploding. I don't want Mary to see me like this, especially when I still don't know whether I should even mention what happened to them or not. You try to follow your own advice and wipe your head clean of these confusing thoughts. At least temporarily. If your hunch is right, you'll have plenty more opportunities to find answers to your queries. Or, more likely, even more questions without answers. But until then, all you need to worry about is not getting lost as you make your way to Pandora's main building. Not long after, you finally reach your destination. After everything that transpired earlier, the emblem that rests above the entrance to the building can't help but feel even scarier than usual. Maybe you're just easily impressed is all. Or easily scared. Come to think of it, what is Pandora even supposed to mean? Is it the name of the founder or something? They've been around for a century or so. Yet there's so much even I still don't know about them. Hopefully Mary will be able to answer some of your questions when you meet her in just a few. When you enter the building, you're immediately greeted by the vast and orderly main lobby. It's basically a big reception area full of secretaries hard at work behind their desks and not much else. Your stays in this place have always been brief, but you have a feeling that today might be a little different. You make your way to the main desk where a petite female blue jay, in formal clothes and glasses, happily welcomes you. Ah, there you are. I was told you'd visit us today. Yup. Here I am. I apologize if I'm a little late. Nonsense, dear. Mary said you were free to come at any time. She was very clear with me about that. Speaking of, I'll be sure to notify her of your arrival right away. Well, alright then. That works for me. Is it fine if I sit down somewhere while I wait? Of course, dear. Go right ahead. Encouraged by the young woman, you turn to look at the rest of the room. The lobby's full of people busy chatting amongst one another or working on their tablets or pads. However, judging by their very formal attire, they don't seem to be part of the staff. They're visitors of some sort, though to what end, you can't say. Some of them already have their eyes on you, it would seem. Needless to say, you'd rather avoid having to deal with them at all if you can. Are there even any empty tables left? Oh, there's that one over there. She points to a table in the middle of the room, which you somehow managed to miss amidst all the chaos. There doesn't appear to be anyone sitting there for the time being, so that could indeed work to your favor. Alright, thanks. No worries, enjoy your wait. You wave the secretary goodbye with a smile and approach your newfound seat amidst the gazes and murmurs of everyone present. You have nothing left to do until Mary comes to pick you up, but you have no clue how long it'll be until then. And it's already hard enough to ignore the curious gazes of all the onlookers as it is. Maybe you could go ask for a more private waiting area to relax in. It wouldn't be too impolite to request, would it? However, right as you begin to get up from the couch, you notice a handful of people standing in your way. Among the small group, an elderly-looking man and woman are the first to speak. So that's what a synthetic truly looks like. For some reason, I thought it'd be taller. Others begin to speak amongst one another, curious and excited looks on their faces, but their words are too muffled to hear compared to the first two's. You're not sure what you're supposed to do in this situation. These people are clearly looking for a conversation with you, but you're in no mood to entertain one at present. And yet, there's no way you could weasel your way out of here, is there? Not without making either you or Pandora look bad. I can scarcely believe it, honey. That's our future right there. Eternal life. Brilliant. Positively brilliant. While the elderly goose strokes his hairs on his chin while eyeing you proudly, his slightly younger-looking kingfisher wife smiles at him ironically. Now, don't get ahead of yourself, hon. You have to actually live that long first. The two of them laugh at one another in the most sarcastic and the most sardonic way possible, making you question whether what you perceive between them is animosity or wicked love. While you're busy pondering that, the lady turns to look at you once again. My, that body doesn't look half bad. Not at all. Carol, mind yourself, we're in public. The goose shakes his head as he addresses you once again. I apologize for my wife. She's very enthusiastic about you. Ever since learning about synthetics, that word has never disappeared from her mouth. It's all she ever talks about. Oh, don't act as though you haven't been looking forward to this moment either, darling. You're just as excited as I am. Again, the man smiles at his wife, though you can't tell whether he's being genuine or sarcastic. Afterwards, he fixes his gaze upon you for the umpteenth time now, inspecting you from top to bottom like a prize while he speaks. True enough. You see, I'm the manager of this famous shoe company. Not the biggest, mind you, but a fairly decent one nonetheless. I was getting rather worried as of late about what would happen to it in the event of my untimely death. Harold, please. Nothing would be more timely right about now. Wow. Something's going on here. Good heavens, Carol. If you aren't careful, our friend here might just think that you're being serious. After more mockful scolding, the goose smiles as he closes his eyes, his mind likely wandering into a waking dream. Either way, I obviously can't hand over my company to that lazy bum of a son I have. Even if he were interested, I'd be constantly rolling over in my grave knowing he's in charge of a whole thing. But with this technology, I might just never have to. I could keep running the country for tens, hundreds, thousands of years. Like I said, it would be brilliant. Hearing this, the kingfisher steps up, loudly scoffing at her husband's plans for the future. Oh, Harold. There you go again. Always going on about work, and more work. Me, I'd be taking things a lot simpler. Just a fancy beach resort, a comfortable deck chair, some fine martini. I've been on some long holidays before, but never one that lasted forever. It might just be what my tired bones need. Now, Carol, who do you suppose is going to pay for that never-ending vacation of yours? Why, with you working on your business 24/7, it'd be remiss of you not to finance it, darling. Wow. Oh, there you go again. You're always... The room erupts into a seemingly endless squabble, with almost everyone pitching in to fuel the flames. Everyone's arguing about what they're going to do with synthetic technology. Some talk about work, others relaxation, others yet about finding love or a new family. You'd be lying if you said you never saw a more embarrassing spectacle before you in your life. But this is still ridiculous. Not to mention, deeply uncomfortable. There's no need to get so agitated. We can just... The sound of your voice is muffled by all the others, making you feel even more caged in than before. Every inch of you is telling you to run away, but you are simply out of options. You're going to have to endure this for as long as it... Oh dear. What in the world is going on here? As if answering your prayers, a familiar voice beckons you from behind. The whole crowd gasps in awe as Mary suddenly shows up, wearing the fakest smile you've seen yet. There you are, Isaac! I've been looking all over for you. The woman from earlier turns to face the Siamese, a wide smile on her wrinkled face. Ah, if it isn't the esteemed Dr. Shelley herself, it's an honor to meet the mind behind the synthetic project. The pleasure is all mine, I assure you. Mary's voice is cordial and polite, or at least it sounds that way to a regular person. It seems like you're the only one who can pick up the disgust she feels as she entertains a brief conversation with your groupies. Now then, as much as I'd like to continue with the pleasantries, I'm afraid that me and Isaac here have to leave for the time being. We have some tests and experiments planned for right about now, and we can't afford to delay them any further. Tests? Experiments? She definitely didn't say anything about that back at your apartment earlier. Before you can ask for clarifications, the woman finally turns to face you. Well, shall we go now? Yeah, let's. You don't even need to think about agreeing to the woman's request, having waited so long for an excuse to leave this place. You take the lady's hand and let her help you to your feet, then follow her across the room to a large elevator on the other side. It seems like you've finally made it out of here. However, right before you can enter the elevator, the old man from earlier just has to address you once again. Dr. Shelley, if I may. We've been talking about your synthetic for so long, We wanted to know how long it might take before this technology becomes safe for human use. The Siamese exhales deeply from her nostrils, likely in an attempt to avoid sighing right to their face. Unfortunately, we're still hard at work on our research and testing. It's hard to say for certain when it will all end. Until then, I'd prefer not to talk about any definitive dates. My team's already under enough pressure as it is, you see. Yeah, but of course, I apologize for my husband. He only got more impatient with age. No need to apologize, miss. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have some very urgent tests to run right about now. The elevator arrives just in time to spirit you and the scientist away, preventing the crowd from asking further questions. You wave back to them as politely as you can from within the lift as the doors close before you, until they're finally out of your sight. Only then do you allow yourself to lean against the wall and sigh, feeling absolutely drained. Good lord, I'm beat. I thought I was going to have to deal with them for the rest of the day at this rate. Yeah, sorry about that. One of my buddies needed some help with their software, and it seemed like such a small thing. It's alright, don't worry. I understand if you were busy. Though you try your best to raise her spirits, the cat appears a little reluctant to oblige. I just don't want you to feel like I'm neglecting you is all. I know my words yesterday left a sour taste in your mouth, and letting those people get their way with you for so long definitely didn't help. She's right about that, you have to admit. The Siamese's performance from the other day didn't inspire the greatest confidence in you, and there's still so much about her that leaves you completely puzzled. Hopefully you'll have a chance to ask her what you previously couldn't today, but definitely not in the midst of an elevator. Besides, you have other questions you'd like an answer to first. So, am I really here to do more tests? Of course not, Isaac. We just needed a reason to get the hell out of there. Dear Lord, what an annoying bunch. I could smell their pretentiousness all the way from the elevator. Yeah, I can see what you mean. Who even were those people? VIPs of all sorts, I imagine. Managers, directors, well-known journalists, maybe even politicians. Modern-day aristocrats, essentially. Your legs almost give out upon hearing her say that. You had no idea you were talking with such influential people. Then again, you did meet with the CEO of Pandora twice already, so maybe you're getting a tad carried away here. What are people like that even doing here? Presumably, they're waiting for a meeting with Jasper, one of his underlings in accounting, looking to talk business or to beg for some extra cash to line their pockets. Hell if I know what he actually wants to do with what he actually does with them. The cat vigorously shakes her head at the thought, seemingly disappointed. They didn't annoy you too much, did they? No, I'm fine, don't worry. You try your best to not to look too shaken before your well-meaning friend, though you have to admit that it's rather hard. They just caught me off guard is all. They all started talking to me all of a sudden, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Well, maybe talking to me is a bit of a stretch. There's more so talking about me. Right to your face? Yeah. It's always surreal when people do that. They all sounded so hopeful about their future lives as synthetics. But they still referred to me as though I was a museum piece. You silently nod in reply, feeling completely overwhelmed all of a sudden. I don't understand. Why would even the most fervent supporters of this technology still talk to me like that, like they would a machine? Simple, because they think you are a machine. A simple and coherent deduction, but a confusing one nonetheless. Why would they? Because on the road to success, failure is supposedly inevitable. At least according to most people. I assume they think that all synthetics we create before our public releases are failed creations, that will only let them become synthetics once we've agreed to engineer one that's actually human or something. That's just how people are, sadly. Nobody wants to be the first to try out a new and potentially risky technology. Everyone wants to be the last. Especially when there are so many suckers who can test it out before them. Hearing the scientist's words makes you sick to your stomach. There's no other way to react to knowing that even those who are looking forward to synthetics still view you as little more than an AI. As though you were a replica of what the real deal is supposed to be. Is this why Bradbury spoke to you the way he did yesterday? Because he thinks the true synthetics are yet to come? But that's not how it works, right? You didn't have any failed creations so far, did you? Well, not any known ones anyway. The Siamese sighs as she faces you straight on once again, an unsure but hopeful gaze in her eyes. If we knew, we wouldn't be here today. All of our synthetics so far have given us no solid evidence one way or the other of their humanity, or lack thereof. We have some leads based on the neural process analyses and behavioral patterns, but nothing definitive. We have nothing to disprove these people's fears at present, but there's also no ground for them to stand on either. As it currently stands, this project is still a shot in the dark, which, depending on how you see it, is definitely better than knowing for sure that we failed. In a way, Mary's words are strangely soothing. Knowing that you still can't say whether you're truly human or not is definitely better than getting caught up in people's impression that you simply aren't. The unknown can be a bafflingly helpful friend sometimes. Of course, you don't plan on relying on it forever. I assume there's no direct way I can help you speed up the process. Mary smiles at your implied request, glad that you're still willing to help out in spite of everything. Like Natalie told you the other day, you're already doing enough for us by simply living your ordinary life. That, and not upsetting that crowd when they were bothering you earlier. I owe you for that one. If they got pissy for whatever reason and told Jasper about it, I'd never hear the end of it. You scratch the back of your head as you recall your actions in the midst of that conversation. Rather, your inaction. Yeah, I was getting a little worried about how I might have to speak with them if they actually started asking me questions and stuff. Which, they never did. Right. I'll make sure to come grab you a lot faster next time. But don't worry, I'm taking you someplace full of far friendlier people. You figuratively raise an eyebrow at the woman's remark, unsure of what she's talking about. Your office? Not exactly. The elevator suddenly stops on a floor you've never visited, much to your surprise. Mary gives you a playful wink as she invites you to see what lies beyond. I see a protogen. Also, we're going to leave off here tonight. Two whole types of toasters. Two whole types of toasters exist. That's gotta be a new record. There was one whole uwu today. Anyways, not much else can be said, so stay safe, have a good night, and I will see you all tomorrow.